Kevin does that whole bit.
Yeah, do it.
I don't know the poem off the top of my head. What do I look like?
Darn it, Kevin!
Don't go gently into the dying light.
Okay, here. Do not go gentle into the good night.
Good gentle.
Old age should burn and rave as close of day.
Oh,
rage against the dying of light.
Light.
Do not go gentle into that good night.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Michael Caine. Stupid. Oh my god.
Well, I don't know. I was trying to go with something.
No. I like it.
Well, it's throughout the film.
It is throughout the film. By the end of the film, I probably could have done it myself. Do not go gently into that good night. What's the better poem? What are you going to pick? You going to pick that one? You're going to pick the one that the little pony boy is saying? You want the Professor Brand? Or you want Pony Boy Curtis? Which one?
Oh, no.
Those are the poems that we have on Shelf Life.
I forgot about that.
But over the course of Shelf Life, we've had 2 poems so far.
Only 2.
Featured in the movies.
There's got to be more than 2.
No, that might be it. Let's think about this. Does Amy sign language a poem?
No, I don't think Amy has a poem. I was kind of, well...
I think it's it. That's
Is there a poem in Ghost?
No. There's a song, but there's no poem.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
There's no poem in Usual Suspects. There's no poem in Small Soldiers that I can remember.
Yeah.
There's 2 poems so far. Your choice is Robert Frost or Dylan Thomas. One's about
tonight it's gonna be
one is about the loss of innocence, and the other is about dying. So both of them are about death.
Wow! All right, great.
It's kind of true. Oh my god! I'm Kevin.
I'm Rachel.
Rachel's questioning her existence. Oh crap!
You always question your existence because you always go, "I am Kevin."
I am Kevin. I'm Kevin.
Well, today I'm Rachel.
Today Rachel is Rachel.
That's right.
I mean, she could be.
Or am I? Am I one of them?
Before I even say the name of the podcast, if you aren't into bad impressions of Michael Caine and Matthew McConaughey, give us your download and then just move on.
No, still listen. And share it with all of your friends.
That's
Subscribe everywhere.
You're right. I apologize.
How dare you?
Rachel is right. Subscribe, share, rate, and review, and enjoy.
All of your friends.
Tell not just your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell your parents.
That's right.
Your kids. Your kids' teachers. Your teachers if you are a kid. All of them.
Your students.
Yeah, that's what we need. And this is Shelf Life, a podcast where a brother and sister team go through all of the genres of pop culture, be that books, TV, comics, games, video games, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, anything else that we can think of. And we determine whether or not, in a very, very methodical manner, whether or not those things belong on your shelf. And, of course, we also make sure that if we get close to a wormhole, that we don't touch anything, because we don't know what the other side of that wormhole is.
Yeah, you got to be careful with wormholes, black holes, relativity, all of that kind of stuff.
Don't touch anything on the wormhole.
Yeah.
That was the first lesson that I told my daughter, and she ignored it. So she deserved to die.
Wow.
Rachel, we're in the thick of Volume 3 right now. What is up for contention of the shelf today? Because it's kind of a big one.
A very big sci-fi drama.
In every sense of the word.
Honestly, yes. We are blasting off into space, shooting through a wormhole, and orbiting around a black hole that is Interstellar.
Interstellar. The 2014 Christoper Nolan film Interstellar. This is the newest thing we've done on Shelf Life so far. The most current subject that we've touched so far on Shelf Life. We have another 2014 episode coming out. This
Yes.
volume.
Is
'cause
that like
for some
our
reason...
wall right now? We're just like, well, let's not go past this wall yet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's almost like every volume. I think we stopped this in volume 4, so it won't continue. But it's like every volume we have 2 things from the same year for some reason.
I don't know how we do that. It's like an accident. We're not doing it on purpose.
It's completely accidental. I don't think we do it in volume 4. We might do it in volume 5. We've booked the show out a little farther in advance because we have to. So anyway, Interstellar, the big 2014 movie that was Christopher Nolan's follow-up from The Dark Knight Rises, I think is what came up before this, at least for Christopher Nolan. Rachel, we are prepped for this 2-hour and 49-minute movie. For those that are new to Shelf Life, well, you're in for a treat when we're doing a large movie like this. For those of you that are our usual listeners, our lifers, if you will, if there's a part 1...
Shelf sitters? I don't know what you want to call it.
I like lifers.
It's fun.
If there's a part 1 after the title, you know why. So...
I will preface, I don't know if I'm going to describe...
Don't say it.
I probably will describe everything.
Rachel, what is your history with the movie?
Okay, this is fun. I like how this one has a story.
This one is fun. We're going to tell you.
Well,
a story
it's a very short story, but it's just kind of
anecdote.
funny.
It's a little
anecdote, you know. So yada yada yada. So, anyways, we always go to a movie the night before Thanksgiving. That's a little tradition of ours.
Yeah, we started it in. I think we started it with Skyfall for some reason.
I think it was with Skyfall.
And
I think it was.
I don't know why. I think we just thought, like, let's go the night before Thanksgiving because there won't be a lot of people there.
Right.
And then we decided every year we were going to make a tradition out of that where we would go to a movie.
Yes.
Right before the night before Thanksgiving. And usually we tried to make it something that was slightly different than, like, a Marvel movie. Or, like, something that we were gonna go see regardless. Like, a little more adult. Or a little more, something.
Something interesting, something different.
But something still, like, big or fantastical if we could. Like, we've done Arrival that way. We did Catching Fire. We did that way. What else did we do that way? Or what else was a Thanksgiving movie?
There was another James Bond movie that you both fell
asleep
in.
Yeah.
And I laughed and woke you up.
We also went to Mockingjay that same year, so we did too. We did Knives Out that way.
Yes, we did.
I want to go back and actually see all the movies we did. But for 2014, it was Interstellar. I'm sorry. I wanted to preface that, so go ahead.
Well, the thing is that we don't usually go to, like, an early movie. But this one didn't have anything earlier than 11 o'clock at night. So we went to see.
It might have been like 10:30. I probably still had the stuff.
11.
I tried to collect.
It was 11. I bet you anything that those it was like a 10:45 or something.
Yeah, that's
but the
right.
previews went through, and then it was like 11:10 by the time it started. Okay.
Yeah.
Look.
Yes. This is
so
correct.
It was 11 o'clock at night. This movie is 3 hours long, and it's a slow burn. I will warn you now, it is a slow burn. In space, it's very theatrical, like very
emotional. Yeah.
And I was tired.
Because
like
you
2 in the
might have
morning.
had
It was like
might have
2 or
had
3 in the
class
morning.
that day because like you were
Probably.
in college. So
I probably did. I was probably exhausted. Huh.
Yeah. So we'll get to the point, if Rachel can remember it, where she was like, "It's 2 in the goddamn morning. Why are we still at this movie theater?" I don't think I was prepared for it to be that long either. I mean, we tempt fate when we go to the movies that late usually, but we like.
Well, like
doing
now
that...
it's like 9 or 10 latest. Yeah. Like no later than 10.
Yeah, we did. This might have been that movie where we kind of learned our lesson. Like, okay, we can't go to the latest show.
I think it was the last showing of it.
We have to go to
that
like
night. Like
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Because then most of the riffraff is out of there because they don't want to go that late. But it doesn't end too late that you're like, okay, that like I'm exhausted now.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's our little story about going to Interstellar. We went way too late. I remember I don't think we sat in our usual spot either. I don't think we sat back row middle.
It might have been back roadside.
Okay.
It couldn't have been anywhere but like the side or the middle. Because I
I
kind of remember sitting to the left a little bit.
like I remember being on a side, and if I felt like we weren't in the back row, but we might have been, because I can vividly remember, probably a false picture, of you turning to me and being like, you bringing it up offline. I remember being like, you saying, when are they going to get to space?
I'll tell you guys in the movie, because I think I remember the scene when I said that, because it was like very soon after they actually did get to space.
But I remember like I remember not being in the back or something when they did that. Like, for some reason I picture being on the side, and I don't know why. But regardless, yes, we went to go see this one in the theaters. You and I did, as a Thanksgiving movie. Hence why the drop date for this episode may be around Thanksgiving, because for some reason this is a Thanksgiving movie. For those at home that have not seen Interstellar, or what it is about, Rachel, what is Interstellar about?
So, Interstellar is about a future Earth that is starving. The food isn't growing anymore. I think they're running out of water. There's like dust storms. It's
something about water. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, they say something about water. I can't remember.
I think the water is like, it's just becoming lesser because like the plants and stuff are dying.
Yeah.
So it's just not like actually creating like water and rain and things of that nature. And the whole idea is that we need to figure out how to survive. So the human race wants to survive, and the idea is to find a new planet.
And they're
and a new universe.
They're going on a journey to try to find that new planet for humanity to move to.
Yes.
Essentially. So yeah, that is the story. That's what we get here, but it is a big space opera. And it's the big Christopher Nolan style space opera where everything is huge and there's melodrama and there's emotion.
Lots of emotion.
He had Hans Zimmer do a score, and Hans decided,
score.
I love this score.
It's so good.
We'll get into it
with all like the visuals and then having that music in the background and having all the emotion. You get very into it.
The emotion, maybe. We'll get into the score a little bit more probably during the walkthrough, because like Hans Zimmer did the score. It's our second Hans Zimmer. Well, it's our first Hans Zimmer score in episode order, but we have two Hans Zimmer scores this volume. Hans Zimmer did the score. Chris Nolan wanted him to do something not Batman-like and Inception-like, because he was like, let's like do something different. And then they Hans Zimmer came up with like, let's get the pipe organ, because it's like so it makes it almost like they're trying to make it like a religious experience, like we're doing something like to the stars and all that. It's
bigger than us, obviously. Like that's the universe. You're going out into the universe. That's something huge, and you can't even comprehend it. And type of thing.
Something that the movie does, again, we'll talk about as we go through, is it's trying to juxtapose this massive, we're trying to save humanity event with all of these little things that you care about only as like a human being that are insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe, like people being born and dying and things like that.
It's kind of like the what is it called? Killing the one to save the many, or killing the few to save the many, or whatever.
You're thinking of Mr. Spock's.
Yes, but I mean, it is kind of that whole idea, because usually your own little universe, your own little bubble.
The needs of the many.
The needs of the many
outweigh
the needs of the few. So, but you're like your own little bubble, and your own little family, and your friends, and the people you know, and your neighborhood, and that's your universe, right? But this is supposed to be the entire universe of humanity, period. Like, it's not just those little subsection, it's the entire humanity.
And what's important, like...
Right.
Yes, like, it's all important, but you can't wrap your head around that as an individual. The thing that's important is your people. And the things that you care about.
And the connections and all of that. And we'll get to those little moral, or like the little like everything that the connector that they come up with. Like, it's a little cliche, but the cliches come from something.
Yeah.
I know Kevin doesn't like it.
Do you remember? I feel like we had a debate about. So Rachel and I, when we go to the movies, we usually end up. Her husband hates it, I think, because
I don't think he cares. He doesn't mind.
We'll want to like
knows me.
dissect it after the movie.
I still do that
the way
with just
home.
him.
Sure, I'm sure he's like, So, but I don't remember if we dissected the solution to the movie at the end. Do you remember liking it or disliking it?
The movie?
When you first saw it? No, just it's love, Murph.
It probably felt cliche. It probably also made me feel emotional, but I was also tired. So because I was tired watching it, I was probably like, yeah, this is a little cliche, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I was tired.
Well, yeah. I don't know what I'm going to think about it. We'll see what during the walkthrough. I think that's definitely going to be something that we'll hash out as we go. Because I'm just not sure. I'm not positive how I feel about that one yet.
Interesting.
I don't remember what I felt about it that night. Have you watched this movie since then?
No. I haven't. I don't think I've seen it since then. I've remembered it. I remembered a lot from it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen it since then. I don't even know if it's been like played on TV where it's like, oh hey, I'll see this like scene or something, and then
I feel like they used to put it on FX.
I've heard the music a lot.
Yeah, I feel like they had it on FX. But to your point, I don't know if I've really watched it that much either. I'm sure I have watched it, on TV if they had it on TV. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I sat down and watched it. And again, to your point, I remembered a lot. I knew, like,
yes.
There's a part when they're on Dr. Mann's planet, the glacier planet.
Yeah.
And there's rising action, and it feels like we're crescendoing. And I was like, oh, we must be pretty close to the end. And I paused, and there was an hour left.
Yes.
And I was like, no, because this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. We can't.
And
be
you
that
remember
far away.
everything that happens, like.
And I was right. I knew that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. I just didn't realize that it took an hour. And I remembered TARS, and I remembered all of that stuff.
Yes.
So it does stick with you in a weird way that I did not recall it sticking with me. I mean, we'll talk about this at the end, but it feels very engrossing to come back and watch it again.
Yes. No, but I agree. It is very engrossing to come back to it, because I kept thinking, oh boy, it's gonna be a long one to rewatch, because I'm like, I remember it being long, and it's gonna be a lot, and like I can't watch it too late because like all of
Still
that.
Is a lot.
It is a lot, but I got into it. Like I was engrossed into it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long.
Right.
It just all of a sudden got late, and I was like, oh.
Right. But that that begs the question, like, how will it make the shelf and all of that kind of thing? Because all of the mechanics that it has in it.
I remember Interstellar a lot more than I remember Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And I've only seen Dunkirk once too. So.
Dunkirk just kind of exists to me. We'll do Dunkirk one day, I'm sure.
Yeah, one day. Well, of course we will. Of course we will.
But for Interstellar purposes, yes, I agree. I think it sticks with you a lot.
But just to give it like a parallel, yeah.
Yeah. So the way that this movie came about was a bit interesting, because Christopher Nolan is a filmmaker who wants to do everything the traditional way as a director.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Get out your sport coat with no tie, because we're doing a Christopher Nolan movie. So everybody get out your best Christopher Nolan look.
Oh my God. He
likes to film on film as opposed to digital. I think still does at the time of this recording. His latest one is still on film. He likes to shoot with IMAX cameras. A lot of this was shot with IMAX cameras.
I could see that.
Rachel, I watched this on my Blu-ray copy, but you were watching it via streaming. Mm-hmm. Did the screen do the wide and then shrunk and then wide and then shrink, depending on scene by scene?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I really know. It might have, and I just didn't notice it.
Okay, that's good. I noticed it. And
But usually it was like when it was the space and they were like displaying
most of that is in
picturesque.
IMAX. Yeah.
It was like the full screen.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Every once in a while it goes to the widescreen, the usual movie look, and it wasn't jarring, but because I kept noticing it, like I could see it. But he likes to shoot with the IMAX cameras, and he likes to do a lot of practical effects. And the other thing that he wanted to do and make sure was that if he was going to do this movie, he was going to have it scientifically accurate, or as scientifically accurate as they could
as
make
we
it.
know and understand.
Yeah, because if you're listening to this in the future, like 100 years from now, or
even
whatever,
longer.
Yeah, you're probably like,
when we actually have gone through a black hole before and we know what's inside.
All right, so here's something. According to Wikipedia, this movie takes place in 2067.
That's not far.
No! We'd be in our 70s at that point.
Wow, okay.
So, wait, right? Yeah, it's... How many years from that?
Are you giving us a... Don't give them our
They cut it out. That's
40 years?
That's 44
so
years from now. Yeah, so we'd be in our 70s. So we'd be John Lithgow in
we
this
would
movie.
be John Lithgow. Yeah.
John Lithgow is a millennial, if the Wikipedia date is to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's got to be further than that. Now, granted, since this movie has come out, humanity has gotten worse and has gone way to shit more than it did in 2014.
Technology is nuts,
So I get that in 2014, maybe it was optimistic that we would have the ability to fly to Saturn, but in the year that we're recording this, I'm like, there's no fucking way we're getting to Saturn by the time we're in our 70s.
I mean, we say
I hope I'm wrong.
We say that, but, you know,
can't even get
technology
a fucking
constantly
train to work
is...
most of the time.
I mean, they do need to replace the trains. If they haven't
They
replaced the trains by the time I'm 70, good God.
If you're listening to this 100 years in the future, our world right now kind of fucking sucks, and I hope that we got better.
I mean, we always hope to get better, but the technology has exploded in our time. So I mean, you never know. It could
feels like we're in like a plateau.
It does feel like a plateau. It does. It feels like there's a creative and scientific plateau, which is weird. You know, you never know. It may explode again.
And now they just keep putting more cameras on it instead of coming up with something new. They're just like, here's another camera.
Oh, here's another camera.
This one folds and has more cameras. Did you need another camera? Because we put another camera on it and it folds. The screen still breaks very easily. It cracks
really easily,
but it folds. And it's got 7 cameras on it. Because you needed 7 cameras. Anyways. My point is that he wanted to make it scientifically accurate.
Sure.
So, Linda...
And space science is a little different than what you're talking about, but that's
Yes. So, Linda Obst, I think is how you say her name. I'm not quite sure. She is a producer in Hollywood. She went to Columbia University, and she went to Columbia University with a guy named Kip Thorne. Kip Thorne is a theoretical physicist.
Okay.
That is responsible, currently kind of known for his work on gravitational waves, the theory of relativity, wormholes, that kind of stuff. I guess Linda and Kip were sharing some, thoughts or whatever, and they decided that it would be kind of neat to make a movie about the wormholes and what have you. Mm-hmm. So Christopher Nolan's brother was brought on to do the writing, Jonathan Nolan. And he was going to write up a script kind of centered around, whatever. This idea of a dystopian near future.
Sure.
Dystopian, but it's like, the Earth is dying, or humanity's time on Earth is
almost
dying.
Apocalyptic, because it is like the end of the Earth.
Yes.
The end of humanity.
Trying to find a new homeworld. The original director for this will probably not surprise you, or the person that they were tapping to direct this will probably not surprise you. Steven Spielberg.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They want it
That
to be a
doesn't. It
Spielberg.
doesn't really surprise me. I feel like it would be a lot different if it was Steven Spielberg.
It would be a lot different, but I kind of want to know what it would be like to have a Steven Spielberg version of this.
Yeah, put it into an AI. It'll build it for you.
Like it would be interesting. Like I want to know what the
Sure.
Like
No, I think it would be really interesting.
It would almost be even more interesting. Like take the exact same script and just give it to Steven Spielberg and see what it like does. Isn't that a weird? Isn't that an interesting thought experiment? Like maybe one day with AI we'll be able to do that, where it's like take this movie.
Oh no, I think people do that with
and
AI
put it
already.
In the style of Steven Spielberg.
Oh yeah, people are doing stuff like that now.
Oh, are they really?
Yes.
Interesting.
The thing is with Steven Spielberg, and I guess technically they are.
Okay, here she goes. She's got an idea.
Well, because I'm like looking at the ones he's done, and I'm looking for sci-fi, right?
Minority Report,
because this is
E.T.,
sci-fi. Sure.
Close Encounters. He's got sci-fi up and down.
He does have sci-fi.
Jurassic Park is sci-fi.
But he doesn't have it where it's sci-fi.
It's in space.
On Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sci-fi on Earth.
He doesn't have a space
working
epic.
with the technology we have. Yeah, he doesn't have like an epic that like it's larger. Like this is space. Like this is a little bit different than we're messing with genetics, which is small. This is like it's not in like the sense that it's like a small idea. It's like tiny. It's microscopic.
It's on Earth. It's grounded
right, it's
on the planet.
Earth.
Yeah.
It's grounded, which I think changes it a little bit. I feel like it would be like a Minority Report mixed with Ready Player One almost.
But all those beats about Cooper trying to come back to save his kids and stuff, it is very Spielbergian.
It is, yeah.
But I get your point. Like it would almost look like Minority Report.
Yes.
But
that's kind of where my head is going.
Yeah. But like what?
But with like technology, like I don't know.
It's
instead of just telling TARS to go do something, they'd put on like a VR headset and like do it themselves. Like I for some reason I'm like imagining he would take the technology in a different direction.
Oh no, I agree. I don't think you get TARS with Steven Spielberg. I think you get a C-3PO like droid of some kind. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Even though I like TARS, it reminds me.
I like TARS.
He reminds me of the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I've never seen that.
Okay, there's it's played by Alan Rickman.
Okay.
And once we get into the movie, we haven't even talked about the movie yet. TARS is sarcastic and stuff, and Alan Rickman's robot. Okay, so he plays Marvin the robot. So and instead of being, he's kind of sarcastic, and that's kind of why I like felt that too. So he feels more human. He like talks, right? But he's like a depressed robot. He's very sad and depressed.
Yeah, Tar's not depressed.
Tar's more
knows his place.
Silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted Steven Spielberg. The problem was he moved his production to Disney, DreamWorks or whatever. He moved his production. So Paramount, who had the rights to this idea, needed a new director. And Jonathan Nolan was like, how about my brother? He's good. So they got Chris Nolan. He decided like it was an interesting concept. It was an interesting idea. So he decided he would do it. He meets with Thorne to go over scientific theories. And Kip Thorne says like, okay, but you know, like if you do this, it needs to be accurate. It needs to be scientifically accurate. There was like a couple of provisions. Oh, I wish I would have written them down. I watched the behind the scenes stuff where they were like talking about their meeting. And there was like one provision that Thorne said needed to be like in the movie or couldn't be in the movie. It was something about the way that the wormhole worked, or was something about the way that the black holes worked, where he said like it needs to be accurate. You can't do it like such and such. And I think Christopher Nolan like didn't even really know what he was talking about, so he was just like done. Like it was like, all right, whatever. I don't like even understand. So, but they used Kip Thorne as a consultant for their science stuff. And Christopher Nolan was like, I want to make this like plausible. Like, can we do this plausibly?
Right.
So
Keep it not too into the science where people don't understand what's happening.
yes, which they try.
I think
It's
they do a good job of that.
Yeah, I can follow it. It's a Christopher Nolan movie, so there's exposition everywhere, and
Yes.
he's trying to let you understand what the hell's going on all over the place. But yes, I think that they still make it so that you can tell what's going on. Chris Nolan visited NASA. He visited SpaceX. He was really trying to figure out what it would be like to survive in space for that long, because they take a 2-year trip just to get to the wormhole in the movie, and all of that kind of thing. They wanted realistic, miniature spaceship stuff built. So the
Okay.
Endurance, the spinny one,
Yes.
there were 2 of them built. One was like 60 feet tall, one was like 20 feet tall, or stuff like that.
Miniatures.
Yeah. Well, they are miniature.
Sure, but I mean,
They
that's
built
still
like
huge.
they built like a real Ranger, like the little spacecraft that they go in.
Okay,
They built
neat.
the Tesseract was real. They built that, and then they
Oh,
did
good
that,
God.
and then they morphed it out with CGI.
Oh, sure.
All of this stuff is done like you and I
I like
keep saying
that.
we want to do.
I love that.
Where do it practically and then use CGI to enhance it when you can't do anything more. Like
Right.
Man's Planet is Iceland. It's a glacier, and then they did some morphing to it to make it look like there's never-ending layers
To make it
of
look
glacier.
alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like that. That's the way to do it.
yeah,
I'm telling you, I like it that way.
Chris Nolan rewrites part of the script from his brother, so a lot of the first act or first half is still like Jonathan Nolan's script. Chris Nolan adds some stuff to it. He goes out and sees Mud, which is a movie with Matthew McConaughey, and
Yes.
decides that he wants Matthew McConaughey to be the everyman. It's kind of weird that Matthew McConaughey is playing the everyman in this when he's playing an engineer NASA pilot, but he
Right,
still comes
he is-
off
he-
as the
yeah.
everyman.
Because he's also kind of down to earth. He's
'Cause it's
doing what
Matthew
he needs to
McConaughey.
survive with his family, which is a very everyman thing to do. So even though he
Yeah.
has the brains for NASA, he's like, and I mean, it was disbanded, so I mean, obviously he couldn't work for that anymore. He's doing something for his family, which is the everyman, I think, trope, right?
Oh yeah, I mean I totally get that. It's just weird because like I'm an engineer and I flew flights for NASA. I was gonna go
Right.
to space, and then something happened, and now I'm just a farmer. But so like that makes you the everyman is just interesting to me.
Sure.
So they do all their stuff. All the costumes are designed so that they're real. The microphones in the helmets really worked. So when you see them
Oh, cool.
on screen talking to each other through the helmets, they really were talking through each other through the helmets. Chris Nolan could give them the direction through the helmets, so Anne Hathaway was like, that kind of worked, even though like they were heavy. They were like actually like
Useful.
space stuff. So all of the visual effects at the same time that the filming was going on, as opposed to after the filming was going on, because of the fact that they needed to get all of the ideas and the timing of how all this stuff was going to work with the practical and the visual at the same time, which I think is
Yeah.
how it should be done. So all of this stuff is done very well. Like the visual effects in here are abundant and crazy,
Oh, yes.
and according to the people involved, and I mean, like I think it passes a lot of scientists' tests for what is possible, even though it gets weird in places and,
It does,
and more
but-
science fiction-y.
Sure. But it is one of those things where if this is possible and it's all theoretical, right? It is something that is going to be difficult for people to wrap their heads around, which is
Yeah,
part of that science, is that weird stuff that looks just like fiction to us.
right. Science and magic are one and the same on Asgard, Rachel.
There's no rainbow bridge in this. Get out of here. I guess that's the wormhole. Technically.
Yeah, the wormhole is the Rainbow Bridge.
It's
like
also-
in the MCU, the wormhole is the Rainbow Bridge. So the movie is made. It takes some time to make it because of all of the effects and everything like that. It comes out in November of 2014, like we said. It makes a lot of money. Your humble podcast hosts go to see it. It is considered a hit, but that's not the question. The question, of course, is does it have shelf life
Right.
after all these years?
And it has science in it, so that actually can be a part of our if it does or not. Does it hold up?
I guess the only other thing that we could possibly talk about besides like the production stuff, like I said, we'll sprinkle out through the walkthrough, because we're going to be talking about science in this one. I think we're going to be talking about.
It's going to be hard not to talk about science.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about science. We're going to be talking about, maybe like this film's opinion on where we stand as a people and what our goals should be.
Right. Yes.
Which is interesting to see the stance that this movie takes and the protagonist takes compared to what's happened in the last decade and what society, I think, now kind of says should be our goal. It's interesting in that regard. I've even seen, for instance, Weirdo Billionaire keeps saying we need to find a new home for humanity.
A new home planet.
Because it increases
instead of taking care of the one we have.
Because it increases his stock price. But I'm sure that there are other true scientists and like actual people that have a brain that think the same way. Sure. However, I've seen the complete opposite.
Yes.
Where people are like, no. We don't have the capacity to do that. We have to take care of this planet.
We have to take care of the
planet.
Because
we don't have a fucking chance to get off the planet yet.
Right.
And I think it's interesting because there's a line where Cooper even says, we're not caretakers, we're explorers. We should be trying to... And it's like, that's completely the opposite of what people nowadays kind of think, which is,
right.
We need to fucking not
step
allow
up our game
this to
here.
happen. Yeah. And part of that is because, like Rachel and I said earlier, like, we can't get past the fucking moon, and we barely do that anymore. Like, how the fuck are we going to get to a wormhole? So I mentioned it earlier, if I didn't. Hans Zimmer does the score, as he did for all of the Christopher Nolan movies from Batman Begins through Dunkirk. And I think he might have even done Tenet. I'm not sure. And I'm only saying this because, one, we're nerds for scores.
Oh,
and the music is a character in itself in this movie.
Oh my god! If you change the music in a scene, it can completely change the tone, how it runs, it makes sense to people. Like, it changes everything.
Especially in this movie, though. Like, I think in this movie, it makes such a difference in how you feel and what you're supposed to be feeling and stuff like that.
Yes.
Chris Nolan gave Hans a 1-page sheet of like what the movie was about. Told him to make it about a dad and his son. That's what he wanted the music to be. Once Hans did it, and it's the theme that you hear, that's when Chris Nolan was like, well, it's about a dad and his daughter. But he was like, okay, well, say my idea, whatever. So then when he found out that it was a sci-fi movie, he was like, well, we can make this sound more grand. And so that's when so they recorded it, and there's like a behind-the-scenes feature on the Blu-ray where like they recorded it in like this church in Europe that had a pipe organ, and they had the pipe organist, and he was making the noises, and they're going back and forth on like, make it sound more like, oh, like those kind of things. So Hans Zimmer's point of the score is supposed to be that you're leaving Earth, but he wants it to be grounded in humanity. So the pipe organ makes noises with air as opposed to with strings or whatever. So he says it's like it's literally breathing. So you're literally hearing like something organic. At the farther away you get from humanity, like you're hearing the last breaths of humanity trying to save itself. Yeah.
Oh, see, that's fun. I like that little tidbit.
Rachel, anything else that you want to get into before we go through the walkthrough?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to get into space.
Ready to strap on? Not strap on.
It's gonna take us a while though.
Strap in. Go into that deep sleep. 2 years from now, we'll be by that wormhole. What if we just stopped the podcast here and didn't come out with a walkthrough for 2 years? Or even better,
it's all relative,
years.
Okay?
Yeah, we were just like, we really wanted to see what would happen, so we scheduled the walkthrough for 23 years from now.
It's relative, and we haven't aged a bit because we went into a
well, we did
stasis.
end up going through the Twilight Zone, and so
that's
yes. Yeah.
It's all a similar zone,
We had to do
time-space vortex of
the Twilight
Who.
Zone episodes in a row, and then we got spit out. So we actually did like 100 episodes in the Twilight Zone. That's what everybody doesn't realize.
We did so good. Yeah.
Had to fight our way out.
You'll get those eventually. They just it's coming back, and it just takes time.
We will take a short word from our fake sponsor, and when we come back, we will walk through Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. You know, sometimes you just gotta take a journey into the great unknown, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Heading straight to the heart of a black hole. That might sound a little crazy, but let me tell you, my friends, this here spaceship is built for the challenge. This baby's got it all. Advanced warp drives on board, AI, my buddy Tars. It's a vessel of pure innovation. Those fine folks back on Earth, waiting for the Ranger to come, working day and night to bring us closer to the stars. You see, in life, we all encounter challenges, just like this black hole, but it's all about how we handle them, how we navigate through those moments of darkness, embrace the unknown, and you might find something extraordinary on the other side. Now, I may be floating in space, but you know what never gets old? A sense of purpose. That's what drives us. Exploration, innovation, the pursuit of a better future. And you know what? The Ranger's on a mission to make the future a reality. Just like the open road on Earth, space has a lot of surprises in store. But remember, folks, we're all connected in this vast universe. So let's take care of each other, our planet, and all the amazing creatures that call it home. That was one wild ride, Tars. But you know what? I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Because when you're driven by purpose, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So keep supporting NASA and their mission to boldly go where no one's gone before. Space travel. It's not just a destination. It's a journey. And it's a journey worth taking. Keep driving forward, my friends. And we're back with another walkthrough, this time of Interstellar. So Rachel, are you ready to begin our walkthrough of Christopher Nolan's 2 hour and 49-minute space opera known as Interstellar?
I am thoroughly prepared.
Okay, I am thoroughly not, but let us begin. So the studio logos come up. They're in sepia. They're in sepia for that Dust Bowl aesthetic, I believe.
Yes.
And you
I
get
can see that.
You get Paramount and you get Warner Brothers. Now, there's a little story about this, apparently.
Ooh.
So when I turned the movie on, I was surprised to see the Paramount logo, because most of Chris Nolan's movies are Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's weird that it's Paramount. But Paramount had the rights to the movie, and Chris Nolan went over there, and Warner Brothers was like, hey, we want to be a part of this too. So they made a deal so that Warner Brothers could also have part of the distribution rights. Do you want to know what part of that deal was, Rachel?
Oh, okay. I'm like, where's this going? Go on.
It's just interesting to me because of the fact that, like, some of the things that are done in Hollywood so that rights and things like that go back and forth. So it was agreed that Paramount would have the rights to co-finance the next Friday the 13th movie.
Mm-hmm.
And in exchange, they would also get a future stake in a future film based on South Park.
Oh.
So they exchanged...
Interesting.
So they did a trade. Interstellar for Friday the 13th and South Park.
Wow, okay. Interesting. That's weird.
That is weird. I would guess in the long run, Friday the 13th and South Park are probably more profitable. But
potentially.
We still haven't seen the Friday the 13th or the South Park.
So it's in the future, potentially.
Yeah, still
or never.
Actually, I think Warner Brothers and Paramount are suing each other over the rights to South Park. So.
Of course they are.
Yeah,
of course they are.
Because Warner Brothers gets to put it on Max.
Right.
And Paramount has the rights to specials, so it's very weird. So that all stems from this getting Christopher Nolan and wanting to be part of that. Yeah. So there
All
you
that
go.
business stuff. Business.
Business. Rabble. Oh, business and money and monsters. So it starts with footage from the Dust Bowl documentary that Ken Burns did. So they actually used, these are real people that were in the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, describing how awful it is and how awful the Dust Bowl was. And I remember not being prepared for that when we were in the theater sitting there to view the movie. Like, I was like, what is this? Like, what are we talking about?
Yes.
I like
it's
that
interesting.
I like how they use that too at the end. Because you think that they're just talking about, because they are, that they're talking about the Dust Bowl of the 1930s.
Yes.
Rachel, do you think that it's possible, because the education system is terrible, that there are people that don't know what the Dust Bowl is?
Potentially, yes, I would assume.
Should we take a minute to describe what the Dust Bowl was? Because
sure, give us a couple sentence description of the Dust Bowl. It's necessary to understand because this is pretty much history coming back, and like a lot of this is very circular, but this is the Dust Bowl now of this period of this time.
Yes,
and it's worse. It's like so much worse
because it was a period during the Great Depression between the plains in the U.S. and Canada that was going through drought.
Right.
So of course it was just like even worse that it was going through drought at the same time that the Great Depression was happening and people were trying to recover. So what happens in a Dust Bowl is that there's like the topsoil erodes on rural areas where like there's farmland, the topsoil erodes and there's no water, there's no rain to replace it. So there's a lot of wind erosion and it causes dust to kick up into the atmosphere.
Yes.
And if you have a lot of wind, you can have these dust storms that happen. They happen periodically still to this day. It's just
they do happen, yes. It's just not as bad.
Yeah, as bad as they did during this time. So I think it was
you couldn't see, and everything is covered in dust, and it's getting in your lungs, and it's all over the place, and it's horrible. Like,
so that's what they're talking about here.
People who live in like cold temperature places. Think about like whiteout snow too. Like it's similar to that, but now it's just dry and dust instead.
Yeah. I kind of want to watch that documentary now about the Dust Bowl.
I bet it's interesting. I bet it's really good.
So they're talking about how they had to do all of this stuff during the Dust Bowl. Surprisingly, we get the title card. I was kind of surprised by that because we don't usually get the title card at first on a Chris Nolan movie. It usually comes at the end. But here you are on a bookshelf. There's dust coming down. Yes. And then the word
little
Interstellar comes up.
Spaceships and stuff. Yeah.
Little model spaceships and stuff.
And dust everywhere.
Dust is just everywhere. They do a great job of having the dust everywhere.
Just everywhere.
I bet that's what it was like, too.
I bet it was just completely dusty. Yeah.
They used a food filler to mimic the dust.
Oh, interesting.
And they literally shot it with like a wind turbine.
So not surprised.
Around. So it's practical stuff like that.
It was mess, and it was actually real.
Yep. There's footage of a ship and a crash, apparently. Like, that's the first thing that you kind of see after the title card, is that what we learn is Cooper, who is Matthew McConaughey.
Yes.
He's dreaming of revisiting some sort of like thing he was doing, some sort of mission he was on, where he was a pilot. Something to get
into like the like another layer of the atmosphere, or going into like just that outer layer.
Yeah, he says later that he only ever made it to the stratosphere or something like that.
Right, so he's probably like going to different layers in spaceships. But that's probably what he did, is probably tested those or something like that, you know?
I like to test all these. One day I'm going to be up there with the clouds.
You mean with the stars?
Nah, man.
He's already in the clouds.
Oh, that's true. Nah, go up there in the stratosphere.
I'm going to higher.
I want to go higher into the clouds and the stars. Murph? Where's Murph? Do you think there's a counter on how many times he says Murph in this movie?
Maybe. Because he does say it quite often.
Murph is said quite a bit in this movie. So he wakes up...
She was named after Murphy's Law.
We'll get into that. He wakes up from this dream, and there's Murph, so his daughter Murph, who's 10. She seems older than 10.
Oh, she looks like 12.
That's what I would have said too, but I don't know. I can't tell how old kids are anymore, or like what kids are supposed to do at a certain age. Like,
no idea.
If a friend's like, oh yeah, he's reading now, I can be like, is that good? Is that bad? Like, I don't know. Murph is talking about how she has a ghost in her room. Cooper is like, there's no such thing as ghosts, Murph, go back to bed. And it's becoming Kenny McCormick's mom slightly. I have to be careful with this Matthew McConaughey.
Go back to bed, Kenny.
Go back to bed, Kenny. She asks if he was dreaming about the crash, and he just says, go back to bed. But it's about time for him to get up anyway, so he looks out the window. Good lighting and everything. Really makes you, understand the kind of crapulence that they live in. The score kind of swells at the right points and stuff like that, too. Rachel, they built this farmhouse.
Did they really?
Built this house. They built the cornfields.
Of course they did.
These are real cornfields.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Okay, they are very practical about this movie.
Yeah, it's Christoper Nolan. He just can't fucking help himself. And so they built these cornfields in Canada in a place where he wanted mountains in the background, and the farmers were like, you're not going to grow good corn here because the wind is going to constantly blow on the corn, and it's
that's
not going to...
That's what
we want. Well, so they were able to actually sell they harvested the corn after the movie was over, and they actually made a profit off of it. They actually made money. Funny. So it's kind of interesting that they went practical, they went insane and built an entire cornfield, but they made money off of it. They harvested the corn into silo. So, cattle and stuff could eat the corn.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good.
Because I don't know if you would want to be eating the corn that...
Christopher Nolan grew?
Yeah. They could brand it. This is
could have alien stuff in it. We don't know.
That could have been another fake sponsor. Christopher Nolan's corn.
Christopher Nolan's corn! That's such a good sponsor!
Yes. So, anyway, they built this cornfield just for this movie. But I do think it's funny that, a lesser production would have just done, CGI corn.
Right.
And it would have cost the studio however much money. And here they literally built a cornfield made money.
This is not cornfield.
And made a profit. So they talk about how the blight came. So blight, a word for plant disease, where it kind of, kills crops and stuff like that. And it killed wheat.
Right.
Which is what happened in the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl killed the wheat that was trying to be grown during the 1930s. And now they're like, we still have corn, but it's nothing but dust. There'll be nothing but dust. And they talk about how the dust, the soil, that gives you life and that you use and that you work with, but it's killing you now.
Right.
It's just blowing dust everywhere. I like that they show those little small details too, where there's dust all over the kitchen and stuff.
Yes.
So all of the plates and everything are upside down.
Yeah, they can't set the table, but they're upside down.
Yeah.
And they're covered in dust.
Yeah.
So they have to turn it over and wipe everything again.
I like the world building here.
It's great.
Goes on, and all
it's
of that
very
kind of
sad.
Stuff. Yeah, because it's a possible future.
Yes.
If we were to over harvest, over agriculture, what's the word I'm looking for? But if we were to overuse the farmland and the soil were to just kind of dry up or not work anymore, and climate change were to cause, they never really say why this happened. I just assume it's climate change.
I don't think it's supposed to be, oh well, it's because of this. I think it could be just the way the earth is changing. It could be because of climate change. It could be of how we're treating the land and the environment and all of that. There's probably many factors to it, but it's kind of open-ended as to what could have brought us to this point.
Yeah. Which I guess is fine, because it's not like it matters necessarily, but they hint at it as they go.
Right.
But they don't really say like how we got to this point. I'd actually enjoy probably a shitty comic book which kind of leads you up to this point, like just as filler, just it's like
sure.
a little filler, like we
Right.
talk about, where it's like none of this is necessary and you don't need to know this for it to be good or not. It's just kind of interesting, like
It's an interesting side story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Murph comes down with like a lunar model of like
Right.
like
the
a
little lunar
lantern.
landing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ghost broke it because the ghost knocked books off the shelf and it broke the lunar model.
Right.
Cooper is kind of annoyed at first. He's kind of like, oh, well, I mean, you can't, there's no such thing as ghosts and blah, 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 blah. And John Lithgow, who is playing Cooper's father-in-law, Murph's
The
grandpa, kind of encourages Cooper. He kind of like, gives him like give her a little encouragement kind of a thing.
Sure.
Which was weird because other than that moment, Cooper is very, very encouraging of Murph.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like he ever doesn't
Dismisses her or anything.
Like Cooper has a favorite child. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I think I feel like he's trying to mold them to what they are able to do, though. Because, like, his
That's
son is
true.
smart, but he's very
disagree.
handsy. He's very engineering.
Okay.
So I feel like he's like,
maybe.
yeah. So
The son's a good farmer.
he's a good
like,
farmer,
he even
and he
says
likes
that.
it, and he's an engineer. Like, he could become an engineer, but we find that out later. We don't need any more engineers. We need the farmers.
Right.
So that's kind of why he's like, well, you can still do engineering, but farming is kind of like your main.
But he has a very good knack for farming and like understanding like
Right.
the farming aspects. And with Cooper being able to teach him like, here is some engineering, like
Right.
you can do it, because like he's like they're saying
this
he
is
doesn't have
part
good
of
enough.
farming.
He doesn't have good enough grades to get into college. It's not that he's not smart enough. It's that he doesn't have
Right.
good enough grades to get into college.
Yeah.
The brother is making fun of her. Tom is the brother's name. Eventually Casey Affleck, and he's a little shit. This kid.
I mean, yeah, he's a brother.
He's a little shit adult too.
Yeah, he is a little shit adult. That's very true.
Instead of kind of berating Murph, you get the idea that like, we're scientists here, Murph. So you have to like do a scientific inquiry. You're a ghost. You have to find
Right,
facts.
facts.
You have to come up with your facts. You have to come up with like how you're doing this, and and Murph's like, okay, got it. Like, I understand. So he's teaching Murph to like, use scientific theory to
analyze like situations and things.
Exactly. He's gonna leave to go do his farming stuff. Cooper is, and John Lithgow's like, hold on a second. It's parent-teacher conference night, because that's how Jonathan Lithgow is in everything.
Yes.
I always picture him as being the Progresso Superman. Cooper has to take the kids to parent-teacher conferences.
Right.
So he has to go to school. It's parent-teacher conference, not grandparents conference.
Which, yeah, understandable. Like,
Yeah. As
Sure.
they're going to load the car up to go to school, I do also like that even though it's the future, no matter what year it is, we still have like shitty trucks and stuff.
oh yeah, of course.
I like that they were like, you're never going to get it right. You're never going to like understand like what the future's supposed to look like, and it's supposed to look like kind of a crappier future. So instead of making it, just kind of make it look all kind of like run down, like we just kind of stopped producing stuff.
Yes.
We stopped innovating.
Right. And he just probably took something that he could use and fixed it up.
Yeah. Like, there's little hints of innovation, like all of the combines are self-driving.
Yes, they all are doing stuff themselves. There's no drivers.
But Cooper has this crappy truck. There's like a crappy bus. The
Yes.
TV that's in the teachers' conference looks like it's from when we were kids. Like, it's even
Yes.
older. Yeah, so there's these like little things where it's like we stopped innovating in certain areas. We innovated in some areas, mostly military it looks like, and then they repurposed everything. So
yeah.
they are loading up the truck, and there's like a fire off in the distance, and the Nelson's farm,
Right.
who I guess ingeniously decided to farm okra.
Yes.
And they were like, this is the last harvest for okra.
Because it's like dying and they'll
What the
never be
hell
able to
is
do
the-
it again.
But what the hell is the demand for okra? What are you putting okra in? Is it just because it's different than corn that people are like, well, okra still works. Let's do okra.
I mean, Okra is low in calories but packed full of nutrients. The vitamin C in okra helps support healthy immune functions. So, I mean, it is probably a good vegetable. You probably could use it in probably anything, is my guess.
Okay, well, you can't anymore because it doesn't exist.
That's right.
It's the last harvest for okra ever. There's some fat
and their land, I think, is, like, destroyed at that point, too, because of it.
Do you think that we could make a side quest of this? Because, like, we're seeing here, like, the plain states or something where, like, all the farming is going on. Do you think there's, like, some big city so-and-so that's just, like, hoarding okra and wheat and cocaine and, like, some, like, penthouse mansion?
There's probably some, like, back alley stuff going on. I bet if you went into the actual cities, they're probably really horrible and run down,
like
and
RoboCop Detroit.
And, yeah, like, it's gotta be bad. Like Back to the Future with Biff as Biff. Like the head of it. Like, that's what I'm envisioning. It's like Biff, like, hoarding okra.
We both had two different pop culture references there. You did Back to the Future too, and I did RoboCop. But the folks at home understand. They've got it in their mind.
You know what you're picturing now. That's what they're picturing.
Mm-hmm. So on the way, Murph is sitting in the middle, and she's changing the gears for some reason.
Yeah, he's just having her, like, drive the car.
I guess to have some fun or whatever.
Yeah.
And they
get a flat tire.
They get a flat tire. And Tom says, that's Murphy's Law, because he's trying to tease Murph that, like, she caused the flat, because she grinded on one of the gears.
She did something, and it caused this reaction.
Yeah.
I.e. Murphy's Law.
Cooper has Tom do it, because he's like, well, you're going to have to learn sometime. Like, how to, like, change the tire.
Figure it out. It's kind of like he wants him to be analytical too, so he's like, I need you to just do this on your own. Like, figure it out. What do you think? What do we have to do to fix the tire, even though we don't have another tire?
Yeah, he's a very teachable
Patch it up. Yeah, he's a very teach it. Like, he's like, I'm going to teach you this.
Yeah.
This is a teachable moment.
Meanwhile, Murph is on the side of the car, and she's all upset, and she asks about her name, because she's like, why'd you name me after something that's bad? Because Murphy's Law, how people interpret it, is always that if something can go wrong, something will go wrong.
But it's really just an action following another action.
Right. It means if something...
It doesn't mean something bad's gonna happen.
It means if something can happen, something will happen.
Isn't it the equal and opposite reaction?
That's one. Murphy has 3 laws, I thought. Now Rachel's got to look that up. See, folks, we're going to have to do a lot of research on this episode.
It's been a while.
Make sure that we understand all of the themes.
Oh my god, what did I just look at?
There's some equation. Rachel's looking at the gravitational equation on how to bend space-time.
Oh, yeah. So it is the anything may go wrong, will go wrong.
But he tells her that it's like if anything can happen, it will happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I always took it, where it's like something can happen and it will, right?
Yeah, but let's be real. She was a mistake. She was an accident. She was an oops baby. That's why she's named after Murphy's Law. It's fine.
Honestly, though, it's kind of a cute and fun way to play with it.
Yeah.
It's like, oops, we made a mistake, but hey, Murphy's we got Law. Murph now.
Yeah, if it can't happen, it will happen. Murph. That's fine.
It.
I was an accident. I was not a plan. Doesn't matter.
Why did you and Mom name me after something that's bad?
Well, we didn't.
Murphy's Law.
Well, Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. What it means is that whatever can happen will happen, and that sounded just fine with us.
I think that's really what he's trying to get at. See, Murph, what happened was we didn't really plan on you. So we were like, oops, Murphy's Law.
And then we're like, oh, Murph!
So, it's fine. I think she can live with it. I think she'll be okay with it.
Oh, yeah, she'll spin it. I mean, if she's going to become a scientist, then it just fits, period.
So as they're standing there, this drone flies by.
Yes.
And they hop back in the car because he's like, we gotta get it. And they chase this drone with a flat tire.
With a flat tire through
a
the
cornfield.
You're ruining the corn. What are you doing?
I thought that too. What we end up learning that Coop is like, we're gonna use this to power the whole farm
Sure.
because like it has such a good solar cell in it or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just wandering aimlessly at this point. It's just doing whatever it was
has
told to do, but
yeah,
it's been up in the air for years.
10 years or something like that, he said.
Right. So he's trying to connect to it. He's hacking into like the frame
yeah,
of it.
Yeah. He's trying to hack it. But he's ruining the corn, to your point. Like
But
we
he's
need
ruining
that
corn.
we need that corn, Cooper. You can power the plant, you can power the farm with something else or follow it a different way. Yeah, but there's this whole chase through the cornfield.
Yes.
So we get a hint of the Hans Zimmer score here. There's action as they're chasing it through the cornfield. They really did this. They really put some stuntmen in a car. They put a guy that was controlling the drone in
Which
a
looks
helicopter.
like it looks like one of those like planes that you'd fly.
It's a model.
It's
plane.
cute. It's like but it's huge. It
It's
looked
huge.
small at first, and then
Right.
they walk
When
up
you
to
actually
it, and I'm
see
like,
it,
oh, okay.
And it is it was from a helicopter. They were giving direction to the stuntmen on go left, go right, like we're on how to like do that. So they end up going to the edge of a cliff out of nowhere. I guess because that's like a reservoir. So
Sure.
they end up at the edge of this like reservoir, but they end up getting to hack it.
Yeah.
And they get a hold of it and they bring it down. Tom, I guess, is supposed to be like shown as kind of reckless because he knows that he's supposed to stop.
Yeah, I think he
but
was
he's
gonna
like,
stop. I think
yeah.
he was being an ass.
Yeah, because at the end,
But
he's
he
like,
stops right at the flippin' edge of the cliff.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I
that
do
he
like the
knows that
line.
the brakes worked.
Yeah, I do like the line of that Coop says though. Like, I guess I know the answer to if I told you to drive off a cliff. Like,
Yeah, he would do it. Yeah. This is where I saw the first shift to IMAX. When they go to get the drone, it goes to IMAX screen.
Okay.
And it just bugged me a little bit because I could see it. Most people probably won't see it, and folks at home, I'm sorry if you didn't see it, and then suddenly I'm telling you
I don't know
about
if it happens in like the streaming sites. So
Maybe
it's hard
it doesn't.
To say.
Maybe it's only on the Blu-ray and the 4K. What we learn is that this is an Indian Air Force drone that was for surveillance.
Right.
So I like the fact that you have no idea what that means necessarily, but it kind of means that there was something going on militarily.
Right.
Where there's some Indian surveillance drone that is just flying around.
Just flying around aimlessly at this point. Doesn't have anything to talk back to or do anything, I don't think. It doesn't seem like it.
Does Coop say the sun cooked its brain? Or something like that. It's looking for something.
Yeah,
it's looking for a signal. It doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing.
It's trying to find probably like a homing signal or something. There's probably just nothing there, but it's just like I don't know what else to do, so I'm just gonna keep going. So it's like the sun fried its brain.
Cooper says that because Tom asks like how long has it been up there, and he says it's probably been up there as long as like ours has been up there, so it's probably been floating around for like 10 years. So again, it kind of like points to something went on.
Yes.
10 years ago.
Yep.
What's it called in the Hunger Games? The war.
The Dark Days.
The Dark Days. Yes. Yes. This universe's Dark Days.
The Dark
was
Days
10 years ago.
Right.
I
It must have been.
Picture there was some conflict, probably over food and stuff like that.
Oh, I
that
bet.
was going on.
Yes.
The other thing I think is interesting throughout this entire On Earth segment is you never see or hear a plane. There are cars in the backgrounds on streets and stuff. You see no animals.
Yes, animals. I was going to bring that up. There's no animals.
Not a cat, not a dog, not a cow, not a mouse.
Not a coyote, nothing. Like
nothing. And they're it's farmland.
No rats. Like
not an animal, not a nothing. And I think that's supposed to be pretty illustrative too of where we're at. A question for you about this. So Cooper talks about how he's going to turn the thing into a solar powered cell for the whole farm. And Murph is like, can't we just let it go? It wasn't hurting nobody. She acts like they shot down a duck.
She acts like it's an animal.
Why does she do that?
Probably the way she sees technology having its own mind. Because all of like the machinery moves on its own and thinks for itself, and the spacecrafts are kind of like on their own and thinking for themselves. I think that's kind of where our technology is going.
Sure.
Where you kind of you start having empathy towards technology when it has its own thoughts and feelings.
Sure.
So I think that might be what she's doing.
Okay, so she's just growing up in a world.
She's growing up
where
in
you
that
have-
world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. Because I was like, it's not a duck or like an animal, Murph. It's a
She
drone.
doesn't know them, maybe.
It's a
Maybe
drone.
They haven't had 'em.
It's a drone with dementia. It's floating around aimlessly.
That's true.
So they take the drone with them. Cooper goes into the conference, the parent-teacher conference.
Yes.
I like that he gets excited to tell them that it's like, oh, that's Indian, sir. It's pretty.
Let me tell
good,
you all
actually.
about it,
Yeah.
because he's a scientist. I mean,
So this is where we learn that Tom's going to be an excellent farmer. He has a knack for it. What about college? And they're like, well, there aren't resources for college. Right now, they only take so many people. And he's not going to get in with the test scores like we talked about.
sure.
We learned that there are no more armies because
Yeah.
Cooper says, I still pay my taxes. They're not going to the army. What are they going to?
Right.
And the people at the school, are, like the principal's like, I don't know. But like, they like have no idea, which is interesting. And I guess, here's a thought, actually. I'm putting
Okay.
two and two together right now.
All right.
Later on, when we get to NASA, and Michael Caine is talking about how they had to bring back NASA, but they didn't.
Yes.
That they had to do it in secret because they didn't want people to freak out that their money.
Oh, is that where the taxes is going?
So is that where the taxes are going?
It's going to NASA, the hidden NASA project.
Yeah, that's
I
kind of
like
what I'm
it.
thinking. Okay.
I think you're right. I like that.
Yeah, those Nolan brothers,
Ah,
they write
good
some
tie
tight,
right there.
tight scripts.
Look at that.
This is where they say they don't need engineers. We ran out of food. We didn't run out of TVs. We didn't run out of podcasts. We ran out of food. So we need to get more farmers, uneducated farmers. And this is where the principal says we're a caretaker generation to try to
Yes.
rebuild the world.
Right.
So then we talk about Murph. So Murph's teacher, Crazy Eyes over here.
Yes, kind of, a little bit.
Like, she is supposed to be like a nut woman, right? Like, that's the idea.
Yes, because of what she says here.
Rachel, the way that our textbooks are going, this will probably be in them. There's fucking idiots
Oh my
out
god,
there
they
that...
already are. They're already taking away every like historical thing in schools, so
So-
I'm not surprised.
Murph brought in a textbook about the lunar landings. It's one of
Right, and she
Cooper's
probably
old
brought in
textbooks.
like the little statue and everything too, I bet.
And we learn that all of the stuff about Apollo 11 and all of the lunar landings have been replaced with a corrected version that talks about how we didn't really go to the moon, that it was propaganda to bankrupt the Soviets.
Yep. And this teacher, all right, mind
Have you
you.
met some teachers, Rachel?
I know. I realize. I understand. But she's not much like younger than Matthew McConaughey's character. I
don't
would
think
say.
so. No.
And she is completely on board with saying that it's all propaganda.
So you think if she were in our timeline that she'd be like, she would question the moon. She'd be on
She
She'd be on
would
some
be. She'd
interesting
be saying
parts
we're
of
on
the- of
flat
the internet.
earthers with the moon landing was faked. There's a green screen. All
The
of
moon's
that kind
actually
of stuff.
a military base.
That's right.
Have you heard that one? That it's not really a planet, that it's like a military base. It's not really a celestial being. Yeah, people are fucking stupid. People
There are some really interesting
really- no,
theories
no,
out
no.
there, and then there's some
Look, there's
batshit
some
crazy
interesting
ones.
sci-fi stuff, and then there's fucking morons.
But yeah, no, I do think she might be like on the side of science isn't science isn't real, like that kind of thing. It's weird.
But the
It's just a
interesting-
weird
but,
concept.
But the interesting thing about this is that, like, she's talking about we poured so much useless money
Yes.
into useless machines and useless technology, and we didn't think about how we were going to grow our food or any of this stuff. So the point is that we need to invest in this planet and not leave this planet via, like, space.
Yes. It's
That's-
too late. You
Correct.
needed to do that at least 50 years ago. Like,
Yes. We're worried that it's too late now.
I know. I know.
Folks at home, if you're listening to this in the future, 100 years from now, when Rachel and I have died, we died. We don't fucking care if there's issue. But we're thinking about that now and being.
We are thinking about it, honestly.
Like my whole thing is like, can you please just keep like my planet green and nice during my time? Because
at least,
at the very least, so we don't have to deal with this shit. But people are stupid and people need to just. Oh God. Anyway, I like that the propaganda though is to ground
there's
it.
a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting in that way that
they're trying to ground children to think about the planet and saying we need to protect it and not go off
like
of
this
it.
is our only chance. Like we've never been to space. We never actually went there. Our only chance is to be farmers. Our only chance is to figure this out.
This is the only place we have. This is the only place you can be. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. And we get a little backstory from Cooper here, so that he says, and I thought this was interesting, because what the hell did they turn them into? Cooper says that if there were MRI machines around, then they would have found the cyst in his wife's brain, and they would have been able to save her, but they never were able to find the cyst because they don't have MRI machines, and she died. And that's how his wife died.
Yeah.
What did they turn the MRI machines into? Because
do you mean like they dismantled them or something for some reason?
Did they dismantle all this into food processing stuff?
Maybe they used the parts or something for it.
That's what
maybe
I'm
they had
thinking.
to use maybe when during the dark days that we were talking about with like the war, maybe they needed
terrible war.
Maybe they needed the magnets or something that's inside of them.
You think Coriolanus Snow is the president of this? Might as well be Pan Am. We don't really know.
It's a possibility.
You think this is on the way to the Hunger Games? You think this is like 200 years before the Hunger Games if they never got off the planet? Because the Hunger Games,
this planet wasn't going to last for 200 more years.
Humanity might not have.
Oh, that's true.
A lot of the ways that that Hunger Games universe got over climate change is through technology.
That's true. That is very
like,
true.
There's way less people and stuff, but they get there via all these weird innovations.
They get there eventually. Yes.
Yeah, you know what? There's a game tomorrow night. She's going through a bit of a baseball phase. Her favorite team's playing. There's gonna be candy and soda. I think I'll take her to that.
How'd it go?
I got you suspended.
Because they're like, do you want to punish her so we don't? And instead of just saying, yeah, I'll punish her, and leaving the room, he has to be a smartass about it.
I'm not going to punish her.
Yeah.
I'm going to reward her for still, like, believing in this.
Folks at home, those of you with children, if your child gets in trouble and you get pulled in to discipline them yourself, I'm sure this happens. It never happened.
Yeah.
I was a good boy, so it never happened with me.
Yeah, I was kind of a quiet kid, yeah.
I think Mom and Dad got called in for like one thing or something like that for me.
Oh wow!
It was stupid. The teacher fucked up, but and Dad called them out on it. Dad did a Matthew McConaughey because of course he did. But like,
of course he did.
Or Mom did. One of the two. I mean, I can't imagine being a teacher and having to talk to Mom and Dad. But instead of doing what Matthew McConaughey did, even if it's something stupid and you're like, you people are dumb. Don't call them out on it. Just say like, "Oh, I'll take care of this right away,"
and then just go to the
and then do whatever you want.
Like, who cares? Yeah. Like, I think he wanted to call them out on it because of his principles. He had to do it
because of the fact that he was a pilot. Yeah,
right. And he goes, "No, that stuff is real. How dare you?"
And the principal knows that he was a pilot, like very clearly.
Right.
Anyway, he got her suspended.
Yeah.
So,
long story short, suspended.
That's all just so that she can. There's a reason for her to like not be at school for like the rest of the movie.
Right.
They get a call on the radio, and there's a problem with the turbines. They're all going toward the house.
Right.
It took me a minute to figure this out. I don't think I understood that first time we watched this. That like, oh, they're all like headed toward the farm.
Right.
Because there's some sort of magnetic pull or something.
Right,
some
they're
sort
being
of magnet.
like pulled to the home.
Yeah, magnets are like interfering with the compass. They go into the house and they hear a thump, and the books have all like fallen in the bedroom again. Murph is like, it's the ghost. It's my ghost.
Yeah, it's her way of explaining what she's seeing. It's
right.
a ghost.
She doesn't understand. There's no explanation for it, so it's like it has to be like a ghost. Murph says she thinks she hasn't figured it out yet. She thinks it's Morse code. She thinks that it's trying to explain something in Morse code.
Right. Because it's like specific books. It's not like a whole shelf of books.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out if certain
there's
books
some
are
books
being
that are
knocked
still up,
off.
and there's some that are knocked off, and she's like, there's got to be like some
there's a
type
pattern
of
to
pattern.
this.
Yes.
Yeah. Cooper and John Lithgow are drinking beers on the porch. There's dust just everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is where Cooper says, we're explorers and pioneers. We've lost our way. We should be up in the stars and not like looking into the dirt and this kind of stuff.
It's like we've forgotten who we are, Tom. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers.
This world isn't so bad. And Tom will do just fine. You're the one who doesn't belong. Born 40 years too late or 40 years too early. My daughter knew it, God bless her. And your kids know it, especially Murph.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
And Lithgow says that, back in his day, they made it, which is our day, they made a new gadget every day. Everyone wanted to have it all, but the world isn't so bad. Tom will do fine. It's Cooper that doesn't belong in this world. Cooper is the pioneer that does belong. It's interesting because John Lithgow is kind of like, the world's not that bad. We can figure this out, and your kids will do fine in it. They'll figure out their way. Yeah. You're the one that wants to be the pioneer and the explorer, and you're either born 40 years too early to be able to do it back then, or 40 years too late to be able to do it back then, or 40 years too early when we'll figure this out.
We'll get it back to that place again. Right.
But I think it's interesting. Because we talked about this, where the message nowadays, as we record this episode, is we gotta figure this out so that we don't screw up the planet to a point where it does become unlivable.
Yes.
I think you can do both. We should be doing both.
We should be exploring as well as taking care of the things that we have now.
Yes. This is not a mutually exclusive thing. This is not a fucking First Take, ESPN, Fox News, CNN debate. This is, why can't we do both?
Right.
We should be trying to stop climate change or slow it down as much as possible.
Taking care of this planet, as well as, if we explore, taking care of anything that we end up touching or being near.
Yeah, or we can be
just don't ruin things. Like, come on.
And if you're listening to us on your journey to a wormhole or whatever, which I really hope one day there are astronauts.
Good luck. I hope it goes well.
Love it. I'm glad that you picked this episode.
Have fun.
Also, look in the back catalog for a lot of other episodes that you might have an
you gotta
enjoyment
listen to some Twilight Zone. You gotta listen. Doctor Who would be a good one.
While in space, you want them to listen to Twilight Zone? Wouldn't that freak them out a little bit?
Sometimes you need a little bit of a scare,
That's
every
fine.
now and then.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna suggest like some lighthearted romps. That we've done.
I mean, that's also fine. Sure.
Yeah. The Yankees are in town. I don't know what this was trying to say, but the Yankees are in town at this little like minor league stadium. I guess they're trying to like bring back entertainment like baseball and stuff.
Oh yeah, maybe, because it's like some way of like keeping people's spirits up.
Well, because John Lithgow says in his day there were like real ball players, and Matthew McConaughey says, well, like back in my day people were just fighting over food. So it seems like there was we're saying, like there's this in between time, so like they're trying to bring back stuff like baseball for people to enjoy.
Right.
And John Lithgow says popcorn is unnatural and he wants a hot dog. And Murph has this look on her face like she doesn't know what a hot dog is.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because, again, we
haven't
seen
animals.
So we don't really know what's going on.
I
with the
feel like,
stuff.
Okay, let's think about this. Let's say there's no meat anymore. Hot dog's the last thing to go, right? Because you just make it out of anything.
You just take any type of processed meat and then grind it up into a sausage.
Like
Yeah.
we're losing like.
I mean, there's vegetarian stuff now, so I'm like, I
That's
guess
true.
like maybe
Yeah.
everything is vegetarian.
You could
meat.
have a tofu dog for sure.
Yeah, it's tofurkey, tofu dogs,
John
all of that
Lithgow.
type of stuff.
What is this? This doesn't taste like an ass. This tastes like a damned plant. So I think he might be against a tofu dog.
Probably.
But like Matthew McConaughey's eating a made tofu burgers. Made a burger out of corn the other day. It tasted delectable.
Yeah, he'd get the Whataburger or whatever it's called.
I was talking about getting myself an Impossible Burger.
Okay, that's what it's called.
Yeah. A dust storm rolls in. I could see it on
That
mine,
dust
so-
storm. Good God.
This is supposed to represent there's a big day where a ton of dust storms happened, which is why they're intercutting it with the dust storm footage or dust storm documentary footage.
Yes.
So I think it's supposed to be like that. So this dust storm comes in, it rolls in over the hills. They end up going through town as dust is just pouring all over them. They cannot see where they're going.
The sirens are going off for it. I was like, it's a little late for the sirens because that thing was like right on top of them at that point.
Yeah. They put masks and goggles on.
Yeah.
So, which is what you should do for anything like that, is put some
yes.
some N95s on. They can barely see anything.
Protect yourself.
I like the dystopian style of this, though, because it's very of our
it's
time,
creepy.
and it's very, like, you know, a very plausible future if, like, things were to go south. There's another abrupt cut to hear from IMAX to widescreen when they go inside the house. So they all go inside the house, and Murph forgot to shut her window.
Oh.
So, which is just like...
That's gotta just suck. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, God.
Yeah, so...
I wanted to let in some fresh air and all the dust came in instead.
At that point, you just gotta... Like, there's no way to clean it. There's just dust. Like, you just live in the dust, right? Like,
I mean,
there's
yeah.
no...
I think this has probably happened before, and it's just hard to clean. It takes
Like, you
forever.
just live with
but
it,
then,
yeah.
But she's got all the books. She's got a book wall, okay? Because
She has
a
an
smart
awesome
kid.
library.
I
this
wish she had a
book wall.
ladder, because she should have a ladder to this book wall.
What is she, Belle from Beauty and the Beast?
Come on, every person wants to have a cool library with a ladder. How fun would that be?
Oh, I would love a ladder library. Absolutely.
Yes!
Yeah. Folks at home, if you can get on that, if you can donate to us so I can get a ladder library wall, that'd be great.
It'll have all of our
movies
shelf
and
life
shit. Our
stuff
shelf,
and everything.
Yes. Our shelf
It's
life
our shelf
walls
life wall.
have gotten too large. We need your donations for a ladder to be able to climb to the top shelf to pull off.
We can't do top shelf until you can get us to the top shelf.
Yes.
Get us that ladder.
Yes, get us that ladder. This is also, we're recording this out of order, so they'll listen to The Holiday after they listen to Interstellar. But this is the second movie that we'll be doing in Volume 3 that has an extravagant shelf in
That's
it.
true!
This one is books. The Holidays is movies.
It was movies.
Yeah.
Huh,
So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. That's our connection. So they shut the window, and all the dust is just kind of gathering into straight lines.
Yeah, it's
and
very weird.
Falling
It's like a
in straight
wall.
lines.
Yeah.
They're freaked out about it, and Cooper tells Murph that she's going to sleep in Tom's room because there's too much dust everywhere.
Yeah, it's just too much dust.
But Cooper is staring at the dust because he's like, all right,
It's weird.
there's something to this. There's something weird
Right.
going on. So Cooper is just sitting there staring at the dust lines the next morning, and he says it's not a ghost, it's gravity. And he figures it out. So I like that John Lithgow is like, I'm gonna take Tom to school, and do you want to like clean this up after you're done
How about you
praying?
clean it up after
After you're
praying
done
or
praying
worshipping
to
it?
or worshiping it? Yeah, I like that.
It is because he just does it very like nonchalantly. Like once you're done worshiping it, can you clean that up?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the kid to school.
He knows like Cooper's done this before with like something.
He probably focuses on something because he's
Yeah.
science like brain. You know, you get that science brain. You start analyzing things.
Right. And in this world where he's just a farmer, he like has to distract himself probably in like these.
Oh, I
worlds.
bet.
So he tells Murph it's not Morse code. It's actually binary code. So he's like figuring it out based on like the zeros and ones or dots and dashes. And he goes, it's some kind of coordinates. So they take out a map and they figure out where the coordinates are at. And he starts to leave because he's going to go figure out what these coordinates could possibly mean.
Sure. Like, I'm going to go look at him because it doesn't seem to be that far away.
It's a day's drive. It is
a full day's drive, yeah. But he's acting like, well, I mean, I can just go check this out.
Yeah, he's gonna go check it out. It's such like a cavalier, like it's his explorer, his pioneer spirit, where he's like, I'm just gonna go check this out.
Right.
I want to know what it is.
Right.
Murph wants to go with him. She says, you don't know what you're gonna find, and he's like, yeah,
and
that's
goes,
why
exactly.
you're not coming. So she stows away under his stuff. When he a classic stowaway in cinema is
perfectly
Murph Cooper. And he tells her to navigate. So like he's like, fine, you navigate then. She ends up falling asleep because it takes all day to get there.
Yep.
Do they go to Houston then? Because it's like that where NASA is still like parked. Because like that would make sense if they were in like Kansas or Oklahoma and it took them like
maybe
12 hours to get there, 15 hours to get there.
It could be something like that then. Yeah.
I kept picturing it like having to be in another like plain state, but that's not true because it took the entire day to get there.
Right, and there's mountains, so
yeah. So who knows how long it? Who knows where this is? Because you're right. Oh, it could be. It could be like.
I think it might be in the mountains.
Could be in the mountains. Yeah, that's possible too. Like Terminator 3. Or the Hunger Games
hidden in the
again.
Mountains, you know. Yeah. You hide your facility behind things that are hard to get around.
They end up by a gate, and they're like,
yeah,
this
like Area 51 gate. Here we go.
So he takes bolt cutters out.
Well, okay, I get
you wouldn't
why
do
he
a
does
little
this.
more investigation first.
I would have done more investigation first. It is dark. I would have probably looked for some signs and stuff, but he's probably also thinking if it's a government facility, the government's like been destroyed. Like nobody's gonna be here.
Yeah, okay,
that's probably what he's thinking. But
it's like
my
an old
brain
facility, yeah.
Sure. My brain goes to apocalyptic like brain and goes, well, there could be like scary people though still behind these like this gate, and I don't want to deal with that. If they have a gun, like no thanks.
Functioning like there's they're in a town. There's school. There's college.
Well, I don't think everything would just completely stop. Stuff wouldn't just stop.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think like there's like mutants behind this wall.
Oh no, I'm not saying mutants. I'm just saying like scary, mean people that have guns. Like sure. I'm not getting shot. That's my point.
You ain't coming in here now. Y'all get back in the car.
I mean, they are in the country. Okay, look.
Before he can clip the door, he gets tasered.
He just gets tasered.
And they take both of them away. A Spielberg.
Honestly though, the bright ass light coming up to the car and saying, "Don't be afraid," and then she just screams bloody murder. I'm like, she can't see you, you weirdo! Like you're just shining this bright light. Of course she's gonna be scared.
A big rectangle is the thing that told her not to be afraid.
Yeah, but you couldn't see it.
It's not like a person that can like understand that. It's a big rectangle.
Robot. It's a big rectangle.
Kind of Spielbergian though, right? Because that big shining light, it kind of was like an E.T.-ish kind of moment, I thought.
Yeah, it does. It did feel like that.
So Cooper is being interrogated by TARS. And this is where we meet TARS. I want to know what TARS stand for. I didn't look it up what it stands for. Folks at home, let us know if it stands for something. What we learn is that TARS is this big rectangle robot. He's just a big rectangle with a screen.
Big rectangular robot. Like, it's hard to... You wouldn't catch it at first that the robot is talking. You'd think somebody's talking through a speaker. Because it sounds like a person.
Yeah. I think it's a 2001 reference. I think it's supposed to be the monolith.
It feels like it.
Or even HAL 9000 from 2001. Like, it has that look to it.
It has that feel. Yeah.
But he is an old Marine. So he was used by the Marines somehow. And he's been decommissioned by the government because he's like, there's no armies anymore. You don't have a purpose anymore. I'll take you. Because Cooper is telling him he's going to take him home and make him into a vacuum cleaner.
Yes, he's like pretty much his way of trying to intimidate is saying, and talk back is saying, I'm just going to make you into like some weird little thing that you're just going to be functioning on my farm for the rest of your like life. I'll just tell it quick. There's Tars, Kip, and Case, right?
Yes.
So we have 3 robots that we come in along on our little journey. Tars is an anagram for star.
Okay. Don't know why.
Kip is for Kip Thorne.
That I was talking about, the scientist that consulted.
Yes, so that's Kip Thorne.
Yeah.
And then there's Case, which I guess if you add a P, because Kip, the robot is 2 P's, so if you take that P and give it to Case, then he's space.
Okay, so
I don't know why you.
I don't like that explanation at all.
I don't like that
but
third explanation.
yeah,
Annoys me.
That's I don't like that one. Anyway,
I like the other 2 are fine, but Case annoys me.
I like Case just fine. He's a fine character.
Case is no. I'm not saying like the.
I know.
character
I'm joking. We meet Dr. Brand.
Yes.
And it is Anne Hathaway as Amelia Brand. I watched part of the Red Letter Media review on Interstellar because we're now at a point where they were reviewing these types of movies.
No,
and,
that's so weird. Okay.
Their statement was like, and starring Anne Hathaway, who can overact in everything or something like that. And she does a little bit. She's acting like Anne Hathaway in this, but I mean, she's fine.
Yeah, I mean, she acts a little stuck up is kind of the idea.
Yes, I think so.
She's a little pompous.
She thinks that Cooper is too cavalier.
Yeah,
I think.
well, I think her thoughts of Cooper changes throughout the movie, but yeah, at this beginning part, she like is a little bit like her nose is up and like looks down at him and thinks he's a little too rough around the edges, I think, and stuff like that.
So Cooper says that he had a professor named Brand. You know, are they related or anything like that? And she tells him that Murph is fine. He says, then just let us leave. Like, nobody knows what this is. Nobody cares. Like,
We just
I don't
came across
care.
it. It's not a big deal. Like, we'll just leave.
But they want to know how he got there. And they're like, you can't leave. It's, like, more complicated than that. So they open up into this underground bunker room looking thing with beautiful wood paneling walls all over the place.
Yep.
It is a dream of the 60s, is alive and well in this thing.
Yeah,
but there's
it
a bunch
definitely
of...
just looks like an old-ass conference room. It's definitely just an abandoned facility, definitely.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people around a table, and they ask him how he found it. And he's like, well, it's hard to explain. And he tells them, like, it was an anomaly. And they're like, what kind of an anomaly? Because they're really trying to figure out, like, okay, nobody knows about this place. How the hell did you stumble? Like, did you stumble? Like, you didn't just stumble upon this.
Yeah, you can't just stumble. There's no way you were just driving through. Like,
Yeah.
what were you doing?
Yeah.
Especially because they know who he is.
Right, because Dr. Brand is there. So Michael Caine is playing the older Dr. Brand, Anne Hathaway's father.
Right.
And he knows who Cooper is.
Professor Brand.
Yeah, Professor Brand. We'll call him Professor Brand. Because he knows who Cooper is because Cooper was working with him for NASA.
Right.
But they don't, like, give up the ghost on that quite yet. They kind of...
I think
no
I think
pun
Coop's
intended.
also, well, I mean, he kind of did reveal it to Anne Hathaway, but I think he's also kind of like, oh, yeah, I don't really remember everything. Like, oh, I don't know anything. I just want to leave. Like,
Yeah, he's just
I
trying
know
to...
nothing. Let's just
he's trying
leave.
He's trying to get Murph. He's trying to find Murph.
Yes.
I guess as we're saying this, because I was coming in thinking Cooper is a little two-dimensional because all he wants is to save his kids. Where are his kids? Where are his kids? But as we're talking about this, he does have like that reckless explorer.
Oh yeah,
personality,
he wants to go explore. He wants to go off and do those types of things. Yes.
Yeah. Cooper is trying to navigate around this conversation. Murph just says it was gravity. And all of the people in the room kind of look at each other.
Yes, and then Seneca Crane asks us more questions about the gravity. So definitely the Hunger Games are happening at some point in this world.
Yes. At the very least,
I didn't realize he was in it.
one of Doyle's descendants is definitely Seneca Crane.
Crane.
Wes Bentley playing Doyle in this movie. He's got a beard. He doesn't have future beard. Like
he doesn't
does
have the
in that.
fancy beard,
I
twirly
didn't
beard.
realize that Timothée Chalamet is playing young Tom, the guy from Dune. Oh, you haven't seen Dune yet.
We saw part of Dune.
Yeah.
We haven't watched the whole thing.
So anyway, Cooper's like, okay, but first I'll tell you what I know, but at first I want some assurances. Like, we're not going to end up in like the back of a trunk or anything like that. Because he doesn't know where they're at.
You know what? Fair enough.
Yeah. And they're like, Cooper, do you know where you are right now? You big silly moron, you farmer, you're nothing but a farmer, you silly cow. And
you silly cow.
So Anne Hathaway says they're NASA. And they're like the same one you flew for back in the day. They open up a wall and they reveal a space shuttle that's being worked on.
Yes.
And we got some backstory here. NASA was shut down because they wouldn't drop bombs from the stratosphere on starving people. So apparently...
They said no to murder, is what that's really what it is.
Apparently, at some point, the government was like, we have to get rid of people because there's too many to feed.
Yeah, I think it was probably starving people in other countries and stuff too, because I have a feeling there was a war happening and all of that, and they're just like, let's
but
just
they
kill
also
these
could
people.
like
the less
blame
people
it,
we have in the world, the better anyways.
and maybe they thought they could blame it on something supernatural or like an asteroid if they did it from high enough up, so that they could say
Nobody
like it
would
was an
know.
asteroid and it took out
Now it really is like President Snow shit then. It's like... Or is it more coinish? Because it's just like, well, we'll just,
I mean,
you know.
you could... A conspiracy theorist could easily be like, you see, they're telling you the truth about like how population control is like a thing, and they want to stop us from being able to have children, and they're gonna make us all sterile through fluoride in the water, and
nobody wants to have kids. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite, where there'll be societal
Nobody has
collapse
money
'cause
for
nobody
it.
wants to have children. I just don't want to have children because I don't like them. But
sorry, kids.
fuck them kids. Michael Caine says, well, they needed to bring us back when they realized that just murdering people was not going to be a good enough solution. So they needed to come up with a new way to solve this. They didn't want to tell people they were spending money on NASA because if you can't feed your kids, you don't want to know that your money's going to weirdo experiments going on that may or may not work. You want more results. Now, I get that, and I totally get that in this day and age with idiots out there that would think that, but like, if you can't grow enough food and stuff, how the hell do you think you're going to figure this out without science experiments?
I don't know.
Because people are idiots. Yeah, that's the reason.
Yes. I go towards science brains, so I can't think that other way. Like, I don't know.
Folks,
I don't
let
know.
us know. They've got a plan. Don't let us know. We don't need to hear from you. They've got a plan to find a new home. So they've decided, because Cooper's like, well, we'll figure this out. Because they're like, eventually corn's going to go too, and we're not going to have any food, and Murph's generation is going to be the last generation that's going to be able to live on the planet. So we need to find a new home. We need to find a new way for this to work. Humanity may have started on Earth, but it's not supposed to die on Earth. That's their idea. Like, it's supposed to find a new home. Again, coming back to, that's great, but this is our home, so we should be trying to find a solution for both. Granted, in this world, it's too late.
At this point,
in this universe, it's too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have rangers that were part of the Endurance space station. So it's kind of like a new version of the International Space Station. It's this spherical shaped giant thing. It's kind of floating in space. And they went out on missions called the Lazarus missions, where they sent 12 people to 12 different places to try to find
something that's sustainable.
Yeah, a planet that
humans.
Could sustain humans. And
Cooper's life like, in general.
Right. And Cooper's like, well, where'd you send them? Professor Brand is like, if I'm going to tell you any more, you have to agree to pilot the spacecraft.
And he must have made that decision, this professor man, the second he saw him, he's like, we're gonna have him fly that plane.
Well,
I'm like,
okay. I thought
good
the same
God,
thing,
sir.
Too, because I was like,
a quick
all right.
decision.
But Cooper points that out because he's like, an hour ago, you didn't even know I was alive.
Right.
But they're like, well, we're short up on astronauts,
Yeah, it was just a very quick decision.
Yeah.
And none of them have even left the ground yet. Like,
and Cooper has
right?
flown this thing before. So he's like, quite frankly, you're the most qualified person we know that exists to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So they're saying, like, something sent him here because how else would you have found this? There's something going on. And he keeps saying, like, well, who is they?
Right. That is the question.
And he asks, how long would I be gone? They say years. And he's like, but I have kids. And Professor Brent goes, well, then get out there and save them.
And save them.
How long would I be gone?
Hard to know. Years?
I've got kids, Professor.
Get out there and save them.
I am going to enjoy myself a nice steak here at NASA because we are actually hogging all the meat here at NASA.
We have all the cows.
We're trying to clone
cows.
All those silly cows. We're trying to clone them here at NASA so that we can have meat. So we learned that there were anomalies starting 50 years ago. This is exposition dump. You have to sit there with a pen and paper to write down everything that's coming. Yeah, take your notes, folks. It's a Christopher Nolan movie. We're learning how all of this works. So it always bothers me a little bit about these Christopher Nolan movies that are all heady because I can't think of a good way to do it. I'm not a genius like filmmaker, but it's so much of like, we're going to tell you exactly everything that you need to know in this grouping. Like, can you imagine having gone to the bathroom here? You wouldn't have a fucking clue what's going on for the rest of the movie.
Well, then, I mean, honestly, you should have paused the movie if it's at home then.
But I'm talking about if you were in the theater.
Gone before you went to the movie theater. You should have gone before you went in the theater.
Agreed. Yes, go to the bathroom before you go into the theater. So there's distortions that were happening in the upper atmosphere starting 50 years ago. One of them caused the crash that Cooper was in. Because he was like, oh yeah, I wish that in the dream there would have been something. Maybe there was, and I didn't catch it.
Like you could have seen like a ripple or something.
Yeah, like maybe I have to go back and watch that first scene again and see if there was like a ripple or something. But then they say, 48 years ago, out near Saturn, a wormhole opened up.
Yes.
And as far as we know, in the universe, wormholes are not naturally occurring. Someone has to, or something has to put them there. It has to be placed in a certain spot and made. And they're like, yeah, and it was. And something put it there. Something is there trying to tell us we should be trying to get to this wormhole.
Yeah, they're trying to help us get to where we need to go, is what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, like, what did you do with it then? And they're like, well, we already sent people in it. We sent 12 people in it 10 years ago. A decade ago.
Yes. Well, I mean, it makes sense. All of this stuff is going to take time. None of it's close by. You're not just driving up the street. So it makes sense that it's going to take that long to get there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what I meant by this, but I was trying to get all the timing down because I was like, the landing pod would take 2 years, but trying to get the information back to Earth could have taken over 10. And they were trying to find which one of the they thought they found 12 planets that were viable through the wormhole in like this other system. And and like 3 of them seem pretty viable based on the data they got back.
Right.
So it's a long shot.
But it's the only shot that they have.
Yeah, and Matthew McConaughey's like, well, what about if none of the planets were viable? And I think it's Doyle that's like, hence the bravery. Like, if they go and it's not viable, you're fucked. Like, you're gonna die there. That's the option.
I mean, that's 12 people. Only 3 seem viable.
It's 9
the rest of them are just
dead. Gone. Yeah. I think it's interesting too that they went alone. They didn't take like a whole crew with them. Is that what we're supposed to imagine? That like
I think I think they were the
one
whole
person
crew,
per planet,
and they separated to go to each planet and analyze.
Okay.
So I think they were a crew of themselves, and then they separated
when they went through the
wormhole,
planet. And then they separated to each.
And
planet.
then they separated.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So there's Plan A and there's Plan B.
Yep.
And Plan A is the fact that this facility is a centrifuge. So if you look at it, it's a spirally centrifuge because they were able to figure out somewhat, Brand was, able to figure out how to manipulate gravity, which means that you're able to manipulate time and space. And it all goes back to Einstein's theory of relativity. And I am not smart enough to explain or understand most of it. All I know is that it is a real thing where time affects you differently depending on the gravity. So
Right.
technically, if you were to live in a cloud city 30,000 feet in the air,
Yes.
time would be slightly different than on the ground.
Yes. And that's a minor difference. But if you went to a different planet,
that had a different type of gravity, then they would have different length of days, and you would age differently because time would work differently because it's relative to your own space and like how gravity is pulling on you. But you're also able to manipulate space by manipulating gravity if you could figure that out. Hence why they have this facility built like a circle. So there's no ceiling. It's all it could all loop around in a sphere.
Right, that's the idea. That's going to be their idea with it, yes.
Which I think is also why the wormhole has to be able to manipulate space-time, because you need to be able to like open up. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, when we get to the visualization of what a wormhole would physically look like for a human, it kind of like hurts your head for a second.
Yeah. So if they can harness gravity, they can figure out how to get this whole facility into space, and they can make more facilities so that they could send all of humanity into space in these type of things.
All or as much as possible into space. There's
Plan-
no way they're getting everybody.
Plan
There's
B.
no way. There's no way they were going to be getting
We're not
everybody.
sending
It's
any.
gonna be like an
no,
ARC situation.
You're right. We're not sending any of the poor people. That's for damn sure. No poor people. No ugly people. And no fat people. Those people can stay right here on Earth and starve themselves to death. For all I care.
I mean, come on, you can't tell me that that's not the situation that would happen.
100%. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That there's an interesting story in between the
Definitely.
Tesseract and the ending of the movie, which is how do they all come to peace with being able to leave the planet? And the only solution to that is there's enough room for everybody, because otherwise there'd be wars over getting to leave the planet.
Exactly.
You're in a situation where Lisa has a ticket to board the spaceship to be the ship's spell checker, but she can only take one parent, and she has to choose between Marge and Homer.
Yep.
Mom. That's one of my favorite moments.
Oh, poor Homer.
No, this is going to be very difficult. You can only choose one parent. Mom. Plan B is to make a population bomb. So they're going to take all these embryos with them to whatever planet is viable. They're gonna implant 10% of them or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
And then they're going to slowly increase the biodiversity of all these genes, because they're going to take they're taking a bunch of different genes, and they're taking a bunch of genomes, and they're like 30
years. You gotta
years.
be careful with gene splicing and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like 30 years on a new planet, and we'd have a population of thousands, and it would just kind of grow from there. Which is also an interesting sci-fi idea, too, if you wanted to make that movie.
It's an interesting concept, and that's actually something that people tend to look at a lot of, too. It's
I'm sure.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So, Michael Caine tells Cooper, find us a new home, and by the time we return, I'd solve the problem of gravity. And we'll be able to do this. Murph is mad at him for agreeing to leave. She stomps into the house when they come back, and he tries to explain to her that he has to go. He won't say that he has to save the world, and he tells Anne Hathaway Brand later, because she's like, couldn't you have just told her you were saving the world? And he says something to the effect of, when you have kids, that's not good enough, because like you're all that matters to them, and they're all that matters to you. So saving the world is not something that it's going to like solve it.
Right. Plus, you have to keep kids hopeful. and
Yes,
like
yes.
positive.
Telling
so you
him
can't
that
say the world is ending. Like
yeah.
and Daddy has to save it.
I guess I get that.
She
But
learns
Cooper.
it later in life, but
Cooper, you know you're going to be gone for a long time. Wouldn't you rather go kind of saying, I need to do this for you?
to help save the world,
Yeah.
to keep it
The
better?
the only reason I'm doing this is for you. Now, there could be a selfish reason
It
he
doesn't
wants
matter.
to do this to
it
explore.
doesn't matter because she still doesn't get to keep him. That's not. It doesn't matter to her.
Sure. No, I get that. But, like, be a little grateful here, Coop. Or Murph. Like,
Yeah.
your dad is trying to... He's only doing this for you, technically.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
you could
I
argue that
think
he's trying to be
she's also
selfish to explore the,
Yeah.
the universe.
That's I think how she sees it. She sees it as him just going off and exploring without them and leaving them on this awful place. And he's not really doing it for anything but himself.
Okay. That's fair. I
So
guess
then
that's
he
true.
should tell her, I am
Yeah.
doing this for more than just me.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
I think she figures it out eventually.
She figures
at the
it
end
out.
of the movie.
Yeah, but she's still like pissed at him for like, decades. Like
he freaks her out. So he gives her a watch because he tells her
Yes.
like, I'm going to be going through places like near black holes and wormholes and stuff, and my gravity's gonna change, so time's gonna change. So we're gonna sync up
which
these
I think
watches.
is like a cool science thing that he's like, look, I'm going to tell you about this cool science thing.
Yeah, but he tells her that because time is going to be different, we might end up being the same age, and that scares
When
the
he gets
shit out
back.
of her.
Well, of course it does, because one, that's so many years away.
Right.
Because I have to get to your age for us to
Right.
be the same age.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
scary.
it totally makes sense. Totally freaks her out. He leaves saying he is going to come back. He promises that he's going to come back. It's very emotional. Matthew McConaughey is actually very, very good in this movie. He is
Oh, yeah.
very good
He
in
makes
this.
it very emotional.
And the actress, the little girl, what is the little girl's name? I probably should find that actress's name. Mackenzie Foy? I feel like I know that. She in other shit? Because she does
Of course
a
she
pretty
is.
good job
Yes,
of
she
like
is.
being upset. She
I
played
know I've seen her in
she
other
played
stuff.
Renesmee in Breaking
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes, she plays the older Renesmee. That's probably like where I recognize her face.
Yeah, she's not in a ton. Actually, she must have stopped acting.
She's in The
as an
Conjuring.
adult.
I do remember her in The Conjuring.
Okay, so she's like in a few things, but anyway, I think that she does fine in this, like portraying a daughter who feels like she's kind of been betrayed in a way.
Right.
So yeah, I could see that, like where she feels kind of abandoned a little bit.
Right.
So he leaves. I feel like even though they're like, look, we need to do this quickly because we need to do this as quick as possible, and you already know how to fly the Ranger, wouldn't this take some time?
Oh my
Like
god,
they
I
make
would've
it
thought so.
They make it seem like they launched this rocket like a couple of days after they found the thing.
It may have been like a week later. It may have been. I'm assuming that they just kind of got them all settled.
I think
in,
it would have
figured
taken
it
a
out,
few
and said,
months
"Just
to
go."
like here are the
But they don't have a few months. I think
I
that's their
guess.
point. Is we got to get you in space as fast as possible because of that time relativity thing. We got to get you in space now because we're not going to get
right. It's going to
information
take more
back
time
from
to
you
do
for
this.
years.
Yeah. I suppose so, because it just seems weird that you could have gotten her a little more used to the
A
fact that you
little
were
bit
going
more
to
ready.
leave, because it's going to take some
Yeah.
time. But yeah, they make it seem like it was like immediate. He says goodbye to Tom. He says goodbye to John Lithgow, and she runs out the house. I know they do this for like the emotionality of it. He could have stopped and turned around and hugged her, because
Yes, he could have.
she's saying that like
She's screaming.
the ghost did leave a message in Morse code that said stay, you're
Yes.
supposed to stay, and all this stuff, and she's screaming to him.
Right.
He could have turned around. I get why they didn't do that, but like, come on, you saw
Come
her in the
on.
rearview mirror.
Yes, you did. Yes. He could have come and did a big goodbye hug and left.
Time will run differently for us.
Maybe by the time I get back, we might even be the same You and me? What? Imagine that. Ah, Murph.
You have no idea when you're coming back. No idea. Oh!
Don't make me leave like this. Come on, Murph. Don't make me leave like this, Murph. Hey, I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever, and I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
So is this the point where you said, when are they going to get to space? Because we're like
Yes.
45 minutes
This is
in.
the point where I was like, are we going to space soon? And yes, the answer is the next scene.
12:30 at night, and I'm tired. To be continued in part 2 this Thanksgiving.